I need to remember to do this. I wanted to start with a note about Allie Hill. She hasn't been on the calls in a while. And so just for those of just to catch everybody up, Allie was written into our project as a person with some expertise in labor. And she's supposed to come in after 2 years when we decide if when we learn if we're refunded. But she was supported for a little bit of time so she could stay up to speed, and we haven't seen her in a while. And so I got a note from her apologizing deeply for having dropped off. And she was going through some transition stuff, including a move to UC Berkeley. And so she's starting there in the fall. I'm going to catch up with her shortly. But I think and she said she'd be happy to subcontract. She'd also be happy to relinquish. I think it's a good opportunity for the whole team to begin thinking about what we might need and re-choose whether we want that piece, or whether that piece would be, if that's the thing we most want. And so I wanted to let you know the status. I think a couple of people have said, hey, where's Ollie, or who's Ollie? um, so anyway, that's what's happening there. Does anyone have questions about that?
Is she excited about her move?
She is. There was also a personal reason that her partner is located in Reno and she had been commuting. And so that it's helpful for that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so, and I think it was one of those decisions that took a very long time, during which she was in limbo. And so it wasn't, you don't feel like starting new things when you're in that kind of position. So yeah, so I think she's excited. And I think it'll be more settled, and she indicated she's willing to re-engage because of being more settled. The other item of business is I was wondering if there's anything that people want to get on the agenda for the next few weeks. We have some open spots. I know that people are moving forward with different things, and Chris is proceeding with interviews. There's been some discussion about that. Is there anything, though, that people would like to use a group discussion for, whether it's a general topic that we all ought to be on the same page, or results, or things that you've been wondering that you haven't felt like there's been time to bring up? Thanks, Taylor. Taylor just popped the scoping forward. I do have a progress report to the end of this month, so that will be a focus of me, and you, and Stacy. I will respond to you shortly. I'm still catching up.
Understood. No
Sorry,
problem.
I came back and immediately I got wiped out by a food poisoning bug. So
Oh no.
not travel from my home city. Yes.
And I probably sent it to you on like the first day of your vacation. So like I'm surprised you even saw it, honestly. So we'll get there.
It went in the gonna bug me sometime. Anyway, thank you for doing that. So I think next week we're going to talk about that impact section. And then I put one suggestion on there that can be moved, though. And I would say I'm hoping, right, Dual and Zara are close to full time here now, and I'm hoping that you would be willing to do a 10 or 15-minute chat to the group about what you did before, so they know what capabilities you bring to the project. But I don't want to hit you with that on your very first week. You're welcome to slot it in when you have time. Okay. Hi, Ryan.
Sorry, I'm late.
Where's the obligatory baby?
She's trying to take a nap in the corner of the room over there, but we'll see.
She's trying to take, or you're trying for her to take a nap.
Yes.
I don't think babies try to take naps.
There's a lot of screaming currently. So
Yeah, my kid never tried to take a nap. Well, good luck with that. So Ryan, what the open question right now is there anything that people want to have group discussion on? And you don't have to come up with something now, but I feel like a lot of times I set the agenda and I don't want y'all to feel like it's my agenda. It should be your agenda too. Yeah, this is like asking a question in class. You guys are super quiet. Is there anything that you wish somebody else would talk about? Chris, what do you do when this happens in an interview? How do you get people to respond? I'm going to make you ask these questions because you're good at this.
Not really. I just move on. No, I don't, if they don't really respond, I try rephrasing. If I've asked them a question and I'm expecting a little more, I try to rephrase it, but no, otherwise I just sort of move to the next one.
Okay. Well, Anne's hand is up.
Yeah, as I phase out of this project, I'm wondering if there's any way that I can keep in touch with what's going on and, kind of keep apprised of developments and things like that. If there would be like a blog or, I don't know, newsletter, if there's any desire to keep people posted. Maybe I could just stay on the email train.
Taylor, I think one of the things on our list has been how to keep people apprised on both of our big projects. And that would include the people that have engaged on in an advisory nature, right?
Yeah, I'm excited to kind of brainstorm that with you, especially as we're getting more into action phases on both of these projects.
I feel So, and I'm assuming you don't feel like showing up at the meetings all the time. Like, who wants more meetings? But you would like to receive notes.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how best to ask that question, but I mean, it's just such an intriguing project, and I would just love to see what comes of it. And yeah,
I'm putting outward communication in one of our meeting times, and we can move that around. But I think we should all be talking about that. And how would people give us ideas or ask questions too? Because I think a lot of people have ideas or questions about the implications. Okay. So, okay, if you want to put something on the agenda, please just put it on the agenda or let me know. Both are acceptable. And Ray Doolins are, I'm going to be squeezing you separately for presentations to get on the agenda. Okay, cool. Taylor, I think I assigned you to do the get to know you.
Yeah, since I've had COVID and then a sinus infection, I was kind of reminiscing fondly on being able to smell things. So I figured I would ask a kind of weird question and be like, what is everyone's kind of favorite smell or a smell that you're fond of? And if there's a reason behind it, we'd love to hear it. So put the order in the chat. And for me, I think it's maybe honeysuckle, just because I think we had a bunch of those in my yard as a kid growing up, and I spent a lot of time out there digging around under them for lizards and bugs and things. And so when I smell honeysuckle, I think of like that freedom of childhood summers.
I'm next. I don't know that it is my favorite smell, but it is one that elicits a lot of feelings. And it's citronella oil. I used to live, no, I didn't live. I visited Sri Lanka for 3 months after college, and the mosquitoes were so bad that I would just wear citronella oil as a perfume in order to keep mosquitoes away. So every time I smell citronella oil, I'm always sort of transported back to that place and time. And sometimes I'll even put it on if it's really buggy out. Don't care that it repels people too.
Yeah, I think in the past, like during my childhood or something like that, I used to enjoy like new book scent that was very soothing. But in recent time, I think various type of tea or coffee that really is refreshing for me, having those different kind of scents. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, you're next. We put the order in the chat.
For me, I didn't think about it, but I believe that I like a coffee smell during rainy day. It's very calming for me.
Nice. So I have a weird one that's not my favorite smell, but has a strong association. And so it's the smell of 90 weight transmission oil. It has a particularly pungent odor. And so I worked in an auto shop, and the way I got into that was working for a place that sold transmissions. And I spent some time, like I'd have to move them around. And they're 70 to 90 pounds. So I got really strong. And I've never been really strong, and I really liked the feeling of being a strong person. And so I just kind of associate that smell with like being powerful.
Yeah, all I could think of right off the bat was coffee, just primarily because it's the key to my survival. So I'm always on the prowl for that smell.
Yeah, I guess for me, there's so many it could be, but I guess I'm gonna say like smoky grilled meats on the grill because it just makes you think of like good times with friends and family and being outside and that sort of thing. With the caveat that now I worry about the environmental impacts of meat consumption, the carcinogens of, of consuming smoky grilled meats. And also with the wildfires, since I've lived in Colorado, my relationship with smoky flavors and tastes has definitely soured a little bit. Because sometimes it's too strong, let's say. But that's a good one for me.
Oh, I'm next. Sorry. I think Taylor, I like the question. I don't know if it's a favorite, but the smell of lightning, or like being around lightning, it came to my mind first. It means I'm like out somewhere that I probably shouldn't be, but I've had a good time. So, no, I don't know that it's actually the smell of lightning. It's the smell that I associate with when I'm in a place where I shouldn't be anymore because the storm is too close. Maybe somebody knows what I'm smelling, but I associate it with being too close to lightning. Yeah, probably ozone. Probably. But anyway, I like it though when it's lightning associated.
I love that your favorite one, Ellison, is something that most of us are quite terrified of. You're like, I love it. It's fun. I would say for me, the smell of a pine forest, and I say that because I did some trekking in Nepal when right after college, and I just remember like hiking up and in through this valley and ending up in this big, beautiful pine forest, and it smelled like Colorado, and it kind of made me feel like I was home. So.
I think this is a little weird, but I like love the smell of a rotting saltwater beach. Of like, I don't know, when there's been like dead animals that have washed up and it stinks and it smells terrible, but it reminds me of home. And if you're in Fort Collins and you want that smell, if you go out to like the ponds on a hot day, that terrible smell out there, that's what I'm talking about. So
Where's home?
like South Puget Sound. So there's always stuff
Oh,
rotting on
that's
the
right.
beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting.
Nice. Okay. Well, they say the smell is the strongest evoker of memories, right? So Taylor, I'm sorry you're lacking it for the moment, and I hope it returns quickly. Well, thanks for playing, everyone. I always love these. And people come up with such great questions. So the rest of today, Anne's going to give us a little presentation about her work. Anne's been with us as an intern with a program called She's in Power, which is an organization that gives women who are interested in getting into clean energy a project to do and some mentored experience. And so Anne's been exploring the nature of ResStock. So Anne's got a short presentation, and I hope Stacy you'll be able to see most of it. It'll be recorded if not. And I just left the time open because it always evokes questions from me when Anne presents, and I end up usually grilling her on stuff that is impossible to answer. But I thought I might do the same from everyone else. And since there's a lot of data work in this project, I thought it would be good for everyone to know about this resource. It had always been a sort of cloudy, mysterious development to me, and I think Anne's been really great at unpacking it for use for the team. So Anne, you should be able to share your screen if you've got slides. And how would you like questions to be done? Do you want everyone to wait till the end, or do you want them to jump in as you talk?
I'm okay either way. Probably jumping in as we go is okay, but I don't know how long it's going to take, and I thought I'd put together like 5 slides, and I was totally wrong about that.
Okay.
So I put together 12. So
Okay.
hopefully, just feel free to cut me off.
I think it all has gotten bigger than we expected. Yeah.
True. Yeah, for sure. So I did a data review on a couple data sets, ResStock and Justice 40. And so a little background, as Tammy said, I'm with the She's in Power internship program. Here it's a nonprofit in Northern Colorado, and it helps inspire women to be clean energy leaders. I've been partnered with a mentor named Elena Hawley, who works for Platte River Power Authority doing energy efficiency upgrade work. A little bit about me, I've been in consulting for about 17 years, mostly database management, but a little bit of field work with groundwater sampling, soil sampling, air emissions testing, that kind of stuff. I'm looking to move into a new career in the energy field, and I have thoroughly enjoyed this research project and learning all about what everyone has going on in this group. But in the long term, I see myself as a boots on the ground kind of person, and taking this research and bringing it out into the world to the extent that I can. And obviously, I've been also working with CSU and Tammy, and I'm not going to get into this, but before I started working with Tammy, I was attempting a different project with Dr. Bradley. So this is this is a presentation that I'm going to give to the She's in Power people on Monday. So this was a little bit about the ResStock project. So then I was looking at two data sets, the Justice 40 data set and then the ResStock data set from NREL. They're both publicly available. Potentially they could help refine model inputs or calibrate models or provide an understanding for unpredicted findings. So I did a deep dive into understanding the objectives of those projects and where the data came from and how it was processed. So Justice 40 is an executive order that was signed in January 2021, and it was clarified by the White House's Council on Environmental Quality. It tries to pair economic development and climate resilience in underserved communities. Basically, the mandate is that 40% of federal investments related to climate and sustainability need to directly benefit underserved communities. And then the CEQ defined those underserved communities by developing this tool called Climate and Justice Screening Tool. So that tool, that Climate and Justice Screening Tool, is primarily what I was looking at. So the CEQ, go ahead.
Do you mind if I interrupt on that last slide?
No, not at all.
So something that I've heard, because maybe you know more about this, I've heard that it's actually the 40% for underserved communities is 40% of the benefits, but not necessarily 40% of the investment. And I'm not trying to like nitpick. I think it's just that it's actually a very different way of accounting for like how this initiative works, and it's also, it makes it a lot less clear how to account for this. So I'm curious if you, like, I just haven't been as engaged on the topic, so I didn't know if, have you heard people talking about that, or do you know if that's
No, I didn't know that at all. Although it's not too surprising because it would make it a lot easier to comply with it, right?
Right, because you can, I mean, the idea is, well, it can go both ways, of course, right? If you define a benefit as being larger or more substantial, or if you define a benefit that wasn't previously defined, then you increase the pie. And anyway, it was a
So Stacy, I think you've had to do Justice 40 analysis at least once, twice, or more. Yeah. So I don't want to dive into
yeah. Not really analysis, but writing about how we would report on it in like proposals.
Yeah. So I think
yeah. Anyway, yeah. I don't want to
a topic that our group may want to know about with regard to the heterogeneity aspect. So I would guess Anne's not able to answer this. In order to not detract from what Anne's presenting, let me just note this as a thing that we want to discuss further. I think it's a really important question that you raised, Allison.
Yeah, no, I don't want to take too much more time. I just think it might be worth thinking about with respect to our project some later time.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it really changes the whole project, or I mean, it changes the whole initiative. It doesn't really change what I had done or what I was looking at, because I was essentially trying to look at the Justice 40 data or the CGST screening tool as sort of a shopping list for data that might be used in the ResStock effort. So, but I mean, it certainly calls to mind, is this like a political objective or anyway? Okay, so I'll keep going. So they compiled data from lots of different federal agencies. And some of those obviously are ones that we have already included in our fusion data, but some are not. And So the data that I thought might be informative, and you all know a lot or have your own ideas about the directions that this project would take, but the data that I thought might be helpful is the EPA has an EJ screen tool that I thought might be useful to identify proximity to pollution. FEMA and the First Street Foundation have identified flood risk and wildfire risk. There's a green space machine learning tool that identifies impermeable surfaces. The DOE has a LEAD tool about low-income energy affordability. There's historic redlining, and then there's tribal lands. So I can go over, if you want, what defines an underserved community, but they combined some of these categories. So like any tribal land is considered underserved no matter what their income is. And then there's a few other things that need to be combined, like where you have low income with any of these other categories. So we can go into that later if you want. So moving on to ResStock, that is a tool developed by NREL. There's a similar one also by NREL that, oh my gosh, my phone is going crazy. There's a similar one also by NREL that is called Comstock, that's for commercial buildings. But in the case of ResStock, it's a tool that helps utilities and governments identify cost-effective ways to cut carbon and to optimize the load curve, to maybe shift load as needed, things like that. They modeled homes, so they modeled 1 in 242 actual homes, which is, it's a bit more granular than our fusion data, but it is modeled data, right? It's not real. Those aren't real homes. So then they layered those modeled homes with weather and occupant behavior. Then they took that set and they calibrated it to utility data. Their goal was to represent 2018 data as close as possible. And then at the end, you get to create your own customized EULP curves. So here's an example of an I can't speak today, EULP curve for a day in August in Colorado. And I just downloaded this morning. So you can turn on and turn off any of these categories that you want. You can only look at natural gas type energy. You can only look at electric energy. You can look at all of them. So there's really a lot of power in how you can tailor your data to what you need. So how was it compiled? The home attributes were a combination of probability distribution curves and building codes. So for probability distributions that were not necessarily correlated to energy, they just randomly assigned those values in proportion to the curve. But then for correlated ones, and this was something that I spent a lot of time on and I never really got a concrete answer, but for correlated attributes, they tried to combine or overlay multiple curves to get more meaning and specificity in that data as they're assigning, heating fuel to a home, on top of the housing style or things like that. So then within all that, they also used building codes that were specific to the time and the area that the homes were built. So the weather was modeled by combining AMI 2012 data with AMI 2018 data and overlaying that with TMY data. Then the occupant behavior was an AI program trained with ACS data, which ACS is just a survey about people's opinions about how they behave in their home and how they consume energy in their home. So then that AI program was calibrated using AMI data. the utility data or the AMI data was sort of, they make this Rubik's Cube analogy where they have granular data and then they have coarse data, and they're trying to build, you know, a larger set of granular data. And they use this Rubik's Cube analogy where, you know, you solve the problem for one group of data, and then it screws up the problem for another group of data. And so it's kind of this iterative process.
Hey, Anne, can I just break in on that last slide? There, we're starting to get really thick with the acronyms here. So AI is artificial intelligence, yes?
Yes.
And AMI is that the same as AMY?
No.
Yeah.
AMY is actual meteorological year.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And AMI is
AMI is like, I forgot what it stands for, but it's like
Advanced
detailed.
metering or something?
Yeah, advanced metering
metering. Okay.
information, I guess.
And so
But
what,
it's meter data.
yeah, and so Anne's going to continue to walk through this, but one thing I want to call out here is this is the kind of thing that may be useful in our modeling to predict energy consumption. And we may critique what NREL has done here, but there is no chance that we will have the person power to replicate it. And so it, in terms of demand from homes, I'm going to recommend that we just copy whatever they do and refer to them and include them.
Yeah, as Tammy pointed out in one of our meetings, you know, this is like 30 people over the course of something like 5 years. So it's a really pretty robust data set. Okay, so their sources are pretty diverse. And again, some of them overlap our own fusion data sources. Like we already use most of the census data and we use the ACS data. And I believe we use the AHS data, and we use REX data, and we use PUMAs. But we don't use certain things like OpenStreetMaps. I don't believe we use ASHREA. And then they put a lot of their own professional judgment into assigning attributes. So the outputs of this ResStock is they have a base load, end user, I guess I should define that. The EULP is end user load profile. And so that's that curve. So like there's an EULP, if that makes any sense. That's an example of one. So
and can I butt in here one more time for those of us who are
only one.
Yeah, no, I have 10 chips here. I'm going to use all of them. For people who are not engineers or new to this field, the term load profile, load is like how much energy you need at that moment. And the term profile refers to how it changes during the day. And so people might want to have this kind of information to plan how much energy needs to flow through the grid, for example. And so load is like how much energy is your house going to use, and profile is at a specific hour.
Yeah, so maybe I should go through this example graph a little bit. So this big, like this big orange band right here, I believe that's hot water, natural gas, hot water, or hot water heated by natural gas. And then this big blue or teal kind of color down here on the bottom is air conditioning, electricity going to air conditioning. So as you pile those things all on top of each other, you get the amount of electricity demanded from the power plant, right? So as you move these things around, or as you delete some of them, if you could, you change the amount of electricity you're asking from the power plant. Does that make sense? Ryan's nodding, Chris is nodding. Okay, so moving on. I didn't know how much background you all had in this kind of stuff, so I assume it was way more than me. Okay, so the outputs of this ResStock model, they do a base. So just as 2018 data is out there, they've modeled 2018 data. So they just try to model the electric load based on that data alone. Then on top of that, they modeled the change in electric consumption based on 9 upgrading or upgrade packages. So the upgrade packages would include things like building envelope, additional insulation, additional ceiling, better windows, things like that. And then those upgrade packages went all the way through, including things like heat pumps and ground source heat pumps, things like that. So they made these different levels of upgrade packages, and then they modeled the energy consumption at each one of those levels. So now we can take that and we can tailor these ULP curves to our needs, right? So we can narrow it down to just Colorado, or we can narrow it down to just homes that burn propane for heat. Like, we can really tailor it to however we want. Then they have Tableau displays of impacts from each package, and then they specify that for state savings, home savings, the energy burden. So the energy burden is the amount that you as a home have to spend on energy. And then the energy consumption and then they break all of that out by each upgrade. So how much are you going to save by this upgrade for the entire state? How much are you going to save by the same upgrade per household? Like, it's all broken out in as many ways as you can imagine. And then additionally, they're constantly improving, and I believe they're in the process of adding their REX 2020 data. Then they did a sensitivity analysis. So they're trying to determine how sensitive their model is to, well, what if they were wrong about a certain home's building codes, or what if they were wrong about the amount of homes that have natural gas heat. Well, how sensitive is the output to those attributes, right? And then they also looked at transferability. So they assessed if we have a certain probability distribution of say home building year in a certain part of the country, how transferable are those building years to a different part of the country? Or if we have a probability distribution of heating fuel in the Northeast, can we use that same heating fuel from the Northeast and use it to represent Washington? So they came up with which attributes are transferable and which ones are not. So is this useful to respect? I feel like the housing characteristics, I felt like they needed more clarity. Maybe I just didn't dig deep enough. The same thing with the appliance efficiency and then the efficiency upgrades. The occupant behavior and the weather profile seem to be, like, I understood how they came up with them. They seem to make a lot of sense. So they might be informing respect on the impact of specific efficiency upgrades for both a cost savings and a carbon reduction. And then as I said, they can give us tailored curves of electric consumption or of gas consumption. And potentially we could use this data set to calibrate, a data set that ResStock produces. So thank you all for listening, and I would love to hear your thoughts and feedbacks, and if any of you can think of a way that this data might be useful or applicable. I hope I didn't put you to sleep.
Definitely not. And thanks for giving this presentation. I was looking forward to it. I feel less knowledgeable than quite a number of people on this call about ResStock, but maybe I missed it. How granular can the end use load profiles be produced?
I mean, they can go right down to the home, I believe. But so in the data is, they have one modeled home per 242 real homes. So that's as granular as it gets. And that's quite a bit more granular than our data.
Yeah, I think I had a similar question to Ryan. He put in the chat, if you don't mind me reading.
Oh, I didn't see the chat.
It just popped up. Are the simulated home microdata available? And if so, how big is that data set?
What do you mean by microdata?
Like so if they're simulating homes like the 1 for 260, can we get each of those ones, or can we only get it at like the aggregated level once they've run their simulation?
Oh no, you can get the data broken down in a CSV.
Okay. Do you know how
Yeah.
big it is? Not that I'm like afraid of big data, but I am kind of afraid of big data. So
Like as in file size, or as in the
yes,
number of
yes.
homes?
You downloaded it for Colorado, right, Anne?
I did. I can, if you give me a second, I can tell you.
So you can I think the important thing to note is they are simulated as, like, we should not confuse them with actual homes.
Right. I want to say there's 550,000 homes.
That's not so bad. Okay. If you have it on your computer, it's probably not a problem. That was what I didn't know, is like, is this something we can download, or is this like so huge? It's like, no, you need like a server.
Yeah, I've got 13 meg.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty reasonable.
So you did not download the load profiles, right, Anne, or did you?
No, I didn't.
Because then those are
I just pasted that one, and I just screenshotted that one into my PowerPoint, but no, I did not do that. I didn't know how much respect would be getting into load profiles.
So I would use it. So let me.
Like when I first started this project,
that question that I don't want to use the rest of the time to give, but
yeah.
I'm glad that they exist, because I wouldn't want to spend time creating them. That's the short answer. I believe this would allow us to do a more detailed energy projection than we would otherwise be able to do if we just rely on theirs.
I guess when I started this project, I thought Kartik was going to do a load profile, but
that's
that
not
does
hard.
not seem like, it doesn't even seem like there would be a point to that, so.
No, and Kartik is not operating at this kind of level. So Kartik operates at the sort of national, this characteristic relates to a different characteristic, but in terms of real-time operation, that's a whole another facet of how things work that is not represented in this project. So that's why I feel like we're actually a really good complement to this type of data set.
Mm-hmm.
We should continue working with NREL to be sort of friendly and leveraging what they've done instead of it. This is now stuff that we never have to do.
Right.
And
something I didn't mention that I meant to, the Justice 40 data, it's really like aggregated in kind of a really super simplified way. So I would think that if ResStock or if Respect wanted to make use of that data, it might be beneficial to go back to the source data instead of using Justice 40's massaged version of it, because it really offers up a lot of questions. But it did seem to provide a nice shopping list of, well, if we wanted to know about fire risk, well, if we wanted to know about proximity to pollution or something like that.
Cool. And Anne's developed a report too that I'll make available on the Google Drive. Yeah, other questions for Anne?
I have a quick question. So I was looking at the website for the CGST. It seems that the tool that they have developed is for the whole USA, right?
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, the NREL is just for Colorado or something like that?
No, both are nationwide.
Okay.
The Justice 40, the CEGST is at the census level. So each census tract has a record in there. And then the ResStock is 1 in 242 homes. And one thing that I didn't quite understand and I never got an answer about was 1 in 242 homes by whose metric, right? Were they holding the entire state of Colorado accountable at 1 to 242 homes? Was it each census tract had to be represented in 1 in 242 homes? I never figured that out. So where they're holding themselves accountable at that ratio, I never quite understood. But yeah, both are nationwide. And
yeah, I'm really interested, like as you mentioned in the last slide, is that there should be more clarity in how they are correlating to those data to the household characteristics. That's something that I myself look into personally. That's really interests me. So thank you for the wonderful presentation.
I would love to hear what you find.
Yeah, I'll keep you
I worked pretty hard on that. I couldn't find anything. There is an email address that you can reach out to, a help desk kind of thing that you can ask questions to. And the woman on the other end of that is Elena Present, who's one of the lead authors on the study. And she was super helpful, but she responds about every month. So it's hard to get an answer. So.
And I mean, just this is such a huge it's such a huge part of what the administration is trying to do with energy transitions right now, that responding to an intern from a project in Colorado is maybe not the highest thing on their list. So but I think the interactions we've had with NREL have been really good. Sometimes when you interact with the national lab who's got something going, they're a little bit arm's length and they're like, no, this is what we're doing. But I feel like we can put this forward as a really complementary and leveraging.
I've listened to a bunch of their webinars, and they make it quite clear that they really want you to reach out with questions. Like if there's something that you want to be modeled that is not modeled, like they want public input, I don't think they want my input, but they want, programs or utilities or local governments or, research organizations. They want to know what would be more meaningful data to provide.
Yeah.
Reaching out to them would be good.
And on the flip side, I think as we move forward, because we're investigating the types of things that are not commonly thought of, both in terms of personal interaction and maybe in other parts of of my work, how homes actually work and the reality of those homes. As we develop additions, we can offer those because there's, I don't know if you recognize how much work it takes to maintain a public database, but I would be super happy to just develop the idea and then offload that to somebody who's maintaining it.
Yeah, fair point. And I don't know, they're trying to incorporate Rex 2020 data into it. And I don't know how soon they'll have that ready.
Yeah, so anything that we do that relies on it should be flexible and easy to update, because the data are getting more active and more responsive to
Right.
incoming new data.
And will they do anything that compares Rex 09 to Rex 2020 as far as, upgrades or, I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah, that, so yeah, good questions. And I think when Kartik and Narasimha are back, there's a new postdoc working with Narasimha who's going to be looking at some of the longitudinal aspects, I think. So we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Questions? And thank you so much for what you've done here. I think without your deep dive into this, we would have known this was available, but it wouldn't have felt as accessible as it does now. Yeah,
It
so
was fascinating. Thank you.
give it a hand for Anne's work. Good
Thank you,
job.
Anne.
Yep, and I'll be at the celebration on Monday. So great. Thank you so much. Thanks,
Yeah.
everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye.